Hi, I'm Nikki, the Obsessive Bookseller. Welcome to my channel, and welcome to my second library TBR vlog. This whole project started because I am notorious for placing books on hold at the library and then perpetually saying, no, I'll check it out later. Like, suspend my hold, I don't want it right now. And so books that I want to read that are high priority will sit there for months and months without being touched. I decided to challenge myself by accepting every single hold as they became available and just finally making library books a priority. In case you missed it, I'll link the introduction video showing the books on the TBR for this project. Should be fun. All right, I'm ready to get the ball rolling. Book Lovers by Emily Henry just became available, and it's nothing like everything else I have going on right now. So I'm officially starting my library TBR project, and I will be checking that one out and going through and allowing everything else to become available as it will. Hopefully I don't get overwhelmed again, but we'll see how it goes. There are a couple of them that I don't think are going to become available during this project just based on the sheer number of people waiting, but at least 7 of the 10 should be. I'm really excited. I'll let you know how it goes. As soon as I started the project, within days, 6 of the 9 books became available. So I checked out 4 of them. I did Work Clean, Dead Man's Hand, and Book Lovers. That's only 3. I did 3. By far the one I was most excited for was Work Clean. When I was researching the book, I saw a specific review where the guy said, "This is a love letter to chefs disguised as an organization book." And he's not wrong. That's exactly how it's reading. I happen to love cooking competitions and all sorts of things in the culinary world. It's kind of like I'm an armchair chef. And it helps because I'm familiar with a lot of the people that he's talking about. They're not just names on a page. I actually have a face associated with the name. It's striking me as incredibly well written so far, very well composed, great ideas in there. I thought the whole book was going to be about one single aspect of working clean, like kind of self-explanatory, but no, he's got 10 different aspects of things that chefs do that you can apply to your work life and your home life. I think it's really neat. One of the first steps is planning ahead and getting all of your supplies and everything you're going to need ready, planning out your day, that kind of thing. Be interested to see where this one goes and if it keeps up momentum the entire way through. Dead Man's Hand. The prologue is the only thing I've read so far, and wow. Okay, so I'll admit when I first saw this was being published, I had some uncharitable thoughts. I thought, nepotism, must be nice to have daddy get you a book deal. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, if I were going to write an urban fantasy book, I could think of worse people to have as a mentor than Jim Butcher, so perhaps it might be pretty good. The prologue of this one was awesome. One of the best prologues I've read for an urban fantasy to date, of anything, and I've tried quite a few of them. I like the tone, and I like the mystery that it's set up, and I really like the main character. More to come. Book Lovers. I was nervous to start this one, but I am loving it so far. I'm hooked from the prologue. Again, like as with Dead Man's Hand, but this one was awesome. One of the reasons I don't read a lot of romance is because they're really predictable and they all sound the same. This one sounds like nothing I've read before. And in fact, the author kind of hangs a lantern on the fact that romances sound the same and draws attention to that while offering a twist to the usual, all in one little section. And she really inspired my confidence that she's going to tell a good story here. I love the tone, I love the concept, I love the humor. I can't wait. This is going to be great. Oh, there is a 4th, Jade Legacy. I forgot to count it because I'm reading it as a Patreon buddy read, but I'm about 20% of the way through and I'm really liking this one, like a lot more than I liked the first 2. There's a lot more moving parts. Everything has already been established with the characters, so we're not having to go through explanations. And action, like lots of action, things are happening. There's a lot of political maneuvering. I'm probably paying a little bit more attention to the political stuff this time around, which might be why I'm liking it more. But the stuff that's going on is more interesting this time around. So I can definitely see why people absolutely loved this book. So far, so good. I am very happy camper with it. I spent the morning listening to The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I made it an hour into it. And I had to return it. It was one of the most boring audio productions I've ever listened to. And it actually wasn't structured very well. So I've seen a couple of YouTube productions, like 7-minute videos where they kind of detail the whole system that he talks about in that book, and that was highly interesting. That was someone who took all that information and composed it in a way that was like teachable. I think I've also taken seminars for work where they included material from that book. But yeah, the book itself, I am finding that this is my second attempt at classic self-help and self-development books, and they just don't read well. The other one I tried was the 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden, and oh my gosh, that was one of the worst reading experiences I had. I did not find that book helpful at all. I may have spoken too soon with Dead Man's Hand. So the prologue was great. I really loved the character that we met there. The first chapter is where we meet the actual main character, who I'm assuming we're going to follow through most of the book. And I did not like that chapter. I did not like him. I thought a lot of the setup was really stupid. And it was all contrived to teach us a little bit about how the magic works in this world. And man, it was okay. It didn't sing to me. It was well written, I'll give it that, but I didn't enjoy the first chapter or the character. So dang it, like I wish we were following more the guy we met in the prologue, because I thought he was a lot more interesting. I did finish Book Lovers, and it's not that it was a quick read, but I found myself continuing to gravitate back towards it. So I'm doing this weird thing where I'm kind of bouncing around between books. I'm reading about a chapter at a time before switching. And this one I found myself coming back to a little more often than the rest of them. I had kind of a hard weekend where I really couldn't do much, kind of dealing with an eye strain injury. And so thank goodness for audiobooks. But yeah, that one kind of kept me sane. It was so good. I would file this comfortably in the contemporary romance section, and I really enjoyed New Adult when that first became a thing, because I felt like they were a little more robust than your typical romance novel. We have come a long way from the medieval bodice-ripping type of stories. I liked how unconventional this one was. I liked how completely aware the author was of what makes up a typical romance story and how she kind of gravitated her story away from that. I really loved the witty dialogue. So much fun, especially between the sisters. It perhaps was a little bit too on point to be totally realistic, but I've totally had that rapport with other people in my life and really appreciate to see that in a book. And I love the relationship between everybody. I was also totally invested in the story itself. Like, the main character is an agent, a literary agent, and I was as invested in her relationship with her client and that person's story that they were writing as I was in the main narrative itself. I loved all the details included on her profession and what it would be like to be a literary agent. And I always love it in books when characters are really passionate about something, and that really sang through in this one. Now, the end, I'll admit, I choked up a little bit, and the thing is like, I'm dealing with an eye strain injury, and so crying is incredibly painful, so I was like, don't do it, no! But I did it, and it hurt. But it was worth it. It was really good. And actually, it's not even the love story that got me, but more the relationship between this woman and her sister. For me, that was the big selling point of the book, and the love story was also really good, but kind of secondary. And I love the duality of that. And anyway, this was just awesome. I think I'm probably the last person on BookTube to have read this book if they were interested in it. I don't know what hole I've been hiding in, but you've probably already heard of it, so if you haven't given it a shot yet, it's really good. I'm still trying to decide whether or not I want to rate it a solid 5 stars and add it to my all-time favorites. I feel like the dialogue in the last 2 or 3 chapters got a bit overdone and too cheesy for my liking, but that's getting really nitpicky because the whole thing was superb. But my 5-star slots are very carefully chosen for that reason, but at the very least it'll be 4.5 out of 5. I'm getting 1. I finished Work Clean. This was a highly entertaining book, one of the smartest, most intelligently written nonfiction books that I've read on the subject of productivity, and it was beautifully done. This author made me believe that he not only has a passion for productivity, but also the culinary world, and he really brings to life everything, and you can tell that he spent a lot of time in the kitchens observing and was incredibly well thought out in the techniques that he extracted from the culinary world and applied to the business and working world. It was awesome. I got a lot of food for thought. I am going to try his method. I've already been kind of doing a couple of the things that he suggested before even picking up the book, because I knew what a mise en place was before starting in on this, but I'm going to do what he suggested by finding my mise-en point each day. I'm going to have only a handful of missions and just have one thing going on the front burner for each one at a time, kind of rotate through all of those. It cuts the list down from hundreds of things to do to just like 5 to 10 things to do at a time, and it makes it a little less overwhelming, but it also naturally prioritizes everything. And above all, work clean. I can't tell you how many times I take something halfway to where it needs to go and then leave it for my future self to handle. And lately I've been just zeroing out everything. Just take the thing where it needs to go all the way there, put it away, and never have to worry about it again. And I've kind of been doing the same thing at work, and I've been enjoying it. I feel like I have more time on the weekends now, and it hasn't taken that much extra effort. This book would be really good to read in tandem with David Allen's Getting Things Done. I think the two systems really complement each other. And so I would read David's book first and then pick this one up. But yeah, absolutely love this one. Was so excited to get it, and I'm glad it paid off. I may actually buy a copy for my collection as well. I needed to give a couple of updates, and I thought it's a nice day. Maybe I'll go sit outside again for a while. It's kind of turning into a ritual. I need to update on Dead Man's Hand. As I mentioned, I didn't really like the first chapter or the character, and I continued to not like the character. There's something about him that, like, he doesn't have any drive, he doesn't have any motive, he's not really working towards anything. He's just bumbling along and kind of being dragged along in the story, and I don't really enjoy reading about that kind of profile. At this point, I'm about halfway through the book. There's not been enough plot advancement for me, and there's been a few things that have kind of bothered me a little bit. We spent an entire 2 chapters just barely talking about how good this woman looks in her bodysuit. I mean, it just went on. And then that was kind of strike 2. And then, like, at the risk of getting demonetized, they lost me at the dead man's dildo. I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm curious about where one thing is going in this book, but for the most part, I really don't have any interest in continuing. I'm at a really picky point in life right now. I have so many other 4 or 5 star reads going that this one's going to be about a 3 star. I don't want to spend any more time on it, especially since I'm not even sure I'm interested to see. There's, like I said, one plot point. Maybe I'll kind of skip ahead or ask someone who's read it, like, what happens. I would say, compared to other urban fantasies on the market, there were a couple of supernatural things that I thought he handled well. I thought it was interesting. Kind of a different take on familiar creatures, if you will, and a couple of interesting, kind of unique ones. And so the world building was there. I don't think the narrative was strong enough. I don't think the plotting was strong enough. But if you like Dresden Files and you need something to hold you over, I think this might fit the bill, even though it's not quite as strong. If Dresden Files had a lot of issues for you and it really bothered you, then this one will have some of the same things going on, so maybe skip it. Another one I got into was Desert Solitaire. I think what I wanted to get out of the book, I got from the first few chapters. And then beyond that, it's kind of anecdotal, where he's talking about some of the myth, lore, legends, people of Moab, Utah. And as it happens, I'm a Utahn, and I have been to Moab and Arches a couple of times, so it seems like I'm reading a book about something in my own backyard, which is kind of cool. But there are a couple of issues with the writing. So he talks about finding a rattlesnake under his trailer, and about how it's his job to kind of protect wildlife, and that's all wildlife, even the ones that are a little bit inconvenient, so he didn't want to kill it. And then a few chapters later, kills a rabbit for sport and just leaves it there to rot in the sun. And I thought, that kind of takes away the strength of his narrative. And he's inconsistent in a couple of different ways. Like, he's talking about how much he enjoys the solitude, how much this lifestyle really works for him. And then a couple chapters later is lamenting at how hard it is to be on your own. So I don't know. I am finding I am not enjoying this book as much as I want to be. I want to be the kind of person who's like a diehard Desert Solitaire reading fan, but it's, again, just kind of not what I'm in the mood for right now. And the stories are interesting. I may go back to it at some point, but I find every time I got to those 2 books in the rotation, Dead Man's Hand and Desert Solitaire, I kind of cringed a little bit. So I'm going to set those aside and move on to something else. And as it happens, Ender's Shadow became available, so I'm going to pick that one up. and I'm still reading Jade Legacy. I am really surprised at how many years that book spans. Like, it's over a decade worth of advancement in plot, and it's really working for me. It's realistic, it's slow. I am completely interested in all of the politics and stuff going on. I can see why people love the series, and this one so far is definitely the strongest installment. That's my update for now. This has actually been about 2 weeks worth of listening and kind of pondering. There are a handful of other books on hold, a bunch of them that I've talked about, but I'm not even close to front in the line for most of them, so it might be a little while before I update again. So I have finished Dead Man's Hand. I decided to keep reading it. It was like, it wasn't quite bad enough to put it down. It was close, but I was just interested enough in that unknown thread resolution that I wanted to keep going to see what actually was going on. And I don't know if it was worth it. I really don't. I don't know, didn't really scratch the right itch for that. But I kept reading and I finished it, and it's not the worst one that I've ever read. It's somewhere in the middle. I'd say a 2.5 out of 5 stars, but yeah, I don't know. The epilogue, however, was one of the best epilogues that I've read in a while. He's really good at bookending everything. I didn't like as much in the middle, but the 2 bookends of that book were awesome. I don't know if I'm going to continue on with the next one. I am kind of glad I finished it from a completionist standpoint, but yeah. I did finally start reading Lost Metal. It has been a long time coming, and I don't know why I stalled so long. Well, yes, I do, because I don't remember anything about what happened in the series. I remember absolutely loving the second book. I remember reading the third book as soon as it came out and kind of breezing through it, and I'm glad there's a little bit of recap in this one because I don't remember anything that happened. In fact, there are 2 main female characters, and I only remember like a hodgepodge of them both as one character. I'm like, oh, they are actually 2 separate women. It has been that long since I have read the third book. So yeah, it's still going well. It's a Sanderson. It's written well. I'm really engaged in the story. I'm one of the few... I like Wayne. I think he's kind of funny. I like that he's just so different than everybody else. What I can't stand are the news articles, like the Allomancer Jack. I don't like that section at all, but I can just kind of breeze through it and skim over it, if you will. Yeah. But I may wrap up this vlog before I'm done reading that one. I am also in the middle, almost done with Ender's Shadow, and I just think it's brilliant. There's so many things that he's doing in this book that not only enhance my experience with the other one, but it's just as itself. It is such a cool psychological exploration, and I love the growth of the character. I love his involvement with everything. I love that, like, he thinks he knows everything that's going on, but there's some behind the scenes stuff with the instructors and the heads of the academy. Like, I love the whole thing. Every single thing about it is working for me, and I can't wait to finish that book. And I'm actually probably going to continue on with Shadow of the Hegemon next. But for the sake of this vlog, I think I've rambled on long enough, and I kind of want to start a new project. So I'll have one more update to show you how the end of Ender's Shadow went, and to tell you how far I've gotten in the Lost Metal. And I don't know if on my last update I had finished Jade Legacy, but I did wrap that one up as well. A really good ender to a series. In fact, I get it now. Like, all of the criticism that I had about the first book, like, totally gone in this one. All the criticism I had about the second book, like, totally gone in this one. Everything makes sense, and I thought the evolution was perfect, and I love the pacing, and I love how connected you feel to the characters. I will remember the names of these characters because of the pacing, and I can't say that for most of the series that I've read. I mean, I just don't retain character names, but I definitely will remember everybody from that one. So that was a huge success for me. So I think the only other book that I haven't talked about is the Inheritance game, which is still on hold at the library, and it's been on hold for months. I am 60th in line. Evidently it's a really popular one, so I will not be talking about that one this vlog. Editing Nikki here. So I recorded this clip on June 7th, 2023. It is now August 14th, and I am still only 30th in line. FML. If there was one other one that I'm forgetting, that one is also I'm more than 20 people out, and it says on there, you have a several month wait for this one. So I think I am reading and have read everything that was going to be available in a timely manner. I'm at the point where I should have just probably bought the books. Anyway, thanks for joining me for this update. I will check in one more time and then we'll wrap this up. That's it. I'm done. My last update was over 2 weeks ago, and I am yet only like 2 or 3 more chapters along in Lost Metal. The problem is it's been too long since I read the third book. I have no idea what happened in that one, no memory of anything. Like vague memories of an airship, and that's about it. And they are doing a pretty good job of recapping, but I'm just not invested in the story anymore. It has been too long. So I need to stop trying to read it because I'm not enjoying it. I mean, I do like the characters and I like the writing style and the story is fun, but the emotional investment is just gone. So I need to reread the entire thing to continue with this one. And that sucks because I don't really have time to read it, but I want to be invested in this story. I don't want to be just forcing myself through it because I feel like I should be reading it at this point. If I were to let this continue, it would probably be months before I finish this book, and there's still like 300 or 400 people in line after me to read this one. So even though they have multiple copies, that's still a few months wait, and I think it's due up in like a week. So maybe I'll just return it early and let someone else enjoy it and move on with my life to other things right now. And then when I really feel that itch for a good Wax and Wayne story, then I will pick up the entire set and try to read them all back to back. I think that would be kind of fun. I did really enjoy that series. The second book in particular is one of my favorites. But yeah, the third one, I read it when it came out and I read it really fast because I was like, ooh, new Sanderson. But yeah, took too long. I'm not criticizing him because we got a Stormlight Archive book in the meantime between that. I maybe am criticizing him a bit for the Skyward series because I liked the first book but did not like the second one as much. Anyway, neither here nor there. So let's wrap up this vlog for this library TBR this time and call it kind of a success. I got through a whole bunch of stuff that would have just sat on the rotation for months and months. There were a couple that didn't get talked about at all again, like the one that comes to mind, Inheritance Games. Perhaps when I finally get a chance to read that one, I'll do some sort of special review for it or something, since I've been talking about it but not actually reading it up to this point. And I know there was at least one other that I was waiting on. It was 12th or 13th in line, and now I'm like 6th or 7th. So yeah, that one we'll be waiting on for a bit as well. That one I may even just be like, I'm just gonna buy it and read it, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, thanks for tuning in for me on this one, and I hope to do it again soon because it's always a lot of fun. Right now I've got about 16 books going at once. That's way too many. So I need to like narrow that down a little bit before I can do another library TBR, but that's motivation because I'm looking forward to it. And I hope to catch you next time.